Welcome back, everyone. I'm the Bad Luck Gamer, and today we have another talking video. I promise the Ancestry video will come out, but I felt inspired to talk about TTRPG, so that's what I'm gonna do. And ignore the background, it's not really relevant to the video, it's just cool art from a game that barely anyone played. Regardless, still one of my favorite TTRPG experiences came from Beyond Fantasy anime. So it's this art has more meaning to it than what I'm going to be talking about today. But anyway, so obviously you're all here for the video title, the prevailing negativity in the TTRPG space. And while it is somewhat true, it's not actually the truth. First and foremost, let's get this out of the way. TTRPGs are in a really good spot. It's probably the best it's ever been, and it's getting better all the time. More people are getting into it, more people are talking about it. It's becoming a household kind of thing. And one of the best parts about TTRPGs is that it's a game that people get to make themselves. The experiences, everything you've seen online is a unique experience. And that's the beautiful thing of TTRPGs. They give you a unique experience every time you play, whether it's because of the players, the GM, even the setting. It's all always going to be different. In fact, it's impossible to have the same exact experience one for one. Even the same GM running the same adventure is not going to be able to completely replicate the feel, the tone, everything of an adventure path. And so it's no wonder why people are getting into it more than ever. And obviously, things aren't so bad because people are getting into it and are talking about it and are excited about it. What I mean by prevailing negativity is exactly that. When you start digging into the TTRPG community, you start seeing, well, a lot of negativity. And it's all over the place. It's in the same system, it's between systems, it's all kinds of stuff. A friend of mine recently came up to me and was asking me to make a video talking about, an event that happened in a game recently because he felt like too many people were focusing on the negatives rather than the positives that the change to the game brought. And I told him at that point that it's just negativity bias. You're just seeing it because when people talk well about something, it doesn't have as much stock as when they talk negatively. When negativity is used against something that you enjoy, it feels like an attack. And, as a species, we take attacks quite seriously. And so it goes higher on our priority scale. And that's the same thing with negativity bias, is we have a higher value for negative events than positive events. Negative events oftentimes are considered attacks or endanger things that you care about, while positive things are reassuring and are things that we can definitely share, but they are not as urgent as it was. What is the negativity, right? What is this negativity I'm talking about? Well, let's talk about Pathfinder 2nd Edition. This is a game I cover quite often, and recently I covered the remaster changes. And the remaster was a list of changes that, while the core of the game really didn't change all too much, it was more or less a glorified errata. With the errata still came some pretty prominent changes, like the removal of alignments, spell schools being removed as entire categories and being replaced with just a more general magic system, I guess is the best way to put it, even though that's not 100% accurate. And a lot of people who didn't like these changes spoke out because, of course, you're never going to get anything changed unless you talk about it with people. So it's a pretty reasonable response. But for the people who liked the changes, those responses feel like attacks. And, to top it all off, many people on the internet speak very callously and don't cater their words to the people that, even the people that they're trying to make change things, which is silly. And social intelligence is not a very strong skill in people in general. So, a lot of times, terse language, coarse, rough language, however you want to put it, comes out. People just say things. People say things due to the ambiguity of the internet, and you get a bunch of people who are upset about a list of changes that, for the most part, made the game better, but there are some arguable parts that made it worse for some people. And it wasn't a discussion, and people are terrible at discussing things that they just disagree with because in the end everyone has different values. And this is just one example of an inter-community kind of kerfuffle. But let's talk about TTRPGs as a whole. Now, that is a space that is rife with all kinds of people constantly saying, no, our system is better, your system sucks, I prefer this style, I don't understand why people play like this. It goes on and on and on. And this is predominantly because the TTRPG genre as a whole is not well defined enough. And what I mean by this is if you look at video games, right? You might have people who say, I don't like shooters. That's fine. They play other games. Or I don't like RPGs. That's fine. They play other games. But what you rarely find is people saying, I don't know why people even bother playing RPGs when shooters are obviously better. I don't got time to sit through a story. People do say these things, don't get me wrong, but that's not the general vibe that the internet tends to give off. Most of the time, if it's not in their genre, people really don't care. That changes when you start getting into what shooter you like better, because then, innate tribalism and people kind of erring on one side or the other kicks up. Well, I don't like Call of Duty, or I prefer Rainbow Siege, all that kind of stuff. It's something that then kicks up that level of negativity where it feels like in your own genre of gaming, there can be a lot of negativity, especially one that's highly competitive like shooters and MOBAs and the like. RPGs don't typically feel like this, but there can still be some pretty nasty hate between lovers of different games in a particular genre. And of course, genres can mix, and that also causes issues. But you can see what I mean. When you're looking at video games as a whole, it seems idiotic to say something along the lines of, I don't understand why people like shooters. Because it is something that, people like it. It's not in your genre. It's not typically your problem. And again, I'm not saying people don't say this. They do tons of times. But that's not what the general discourse is. You're not having full on discourses about whether shooters are good or bad. It's typically just someone's terrible take, honestly, more often than not. And I'm saying this as someone who's not a particular shooter fan, but have been known to enjoy shooters from time to time. And the TTRPG genre is not as defined as that. Because honestly, when you're looking at different game systems, a lot of the times you're looking at incredibly different genres. Whether you have the dungeon crawl, looting, leveling style of D&D, Pathfinder 2nd Edition, or whether you have the much more narratively driven, sometimes rules light, sometimes a little bit crunchier, like Vampire or Monster of the Week or what have you, you're getting games that just have completely different genres. And so, obviously, people are thinking, well, you're playing TTRPGs wrong because I don't understand how you don't like the kind of TTRPG that I play. Because again, it's not a well defined enough genre that communities fully understand the difference. There's many people who you just cannot communicate with the differences between a rules light and a rules heavy style of TTRPG. They're just like, why would I play a game that makes it harder to tell the story? Or conversely, why would I play a game that has less rules and you can't define things, It's an understandable difference, and that person's preferences are valid, of course. But they're sometimes just missing, the forest for the trees. It's something that you have to understand. The TTRPG genre is diverse. It's creative. It has many different types of content, many different types of genres, many even different types of people who want different things out of it. You're not going to go to someone who's a first person shooter fan and really tell them about an RPG and expect them to give it a shot because it's just not in their genre of play. Same with TTRPGs. You're not going to go to a rules light player and give them a dense, heavy game like Shadowrun and expect them to enjoy their first time with it. It's just a very different game and probably not their cup of tea. The whole reason why I've brought up this whole idea in this whole video in the first place is to lay it out for people, mostly people who are interested in this kind of thing. As someone who enjoys TTRPGs as an entire genre, who loves games of all varieties and types, it's an interesting topic for me personally. But I think in addition to this, I want to give people something to reassure them. Most of what you see online is just a minority, a very loud minority of people who just have nothing but complaining they want to do online. Because if they're enjoying something or if they like something in particular, they're just far less likely to do so. And you have to ask yourself, are you the kind of person to go online and complain about something? If you're not, then it's just a different kind of person altogether from you. And if you are someone who likes to come online to complain about things, then, you must understand that you are just voicing your opinion and you have a right to do so, just like anyone else. And so when you see other people doing it, you should give them the same level of respect. Now, obviously, not everyone has discourse, respectfully, and human communication is never going to be easy, but it's something where a lot of people are looking at the TTRPG space. I've seen a lot of people who get into Pathfinder and then they see the constant discourse with the changes with the remaster, for instance, and they feel like the community's in shambles, even though that's definitely not the case. It feels that way sometimes. And the same thing with the D&D community, and the same thing with many other communities. And when it becomes or not is it intercommunity? Yeah, intercommunity between different communities, then it starts feeling like the TTRPG space is hostile. I mean, if I'm sure many of you out there have considered that the TTRPG space feels very hostile and it feels like it's hard to talk about things. I know I have. And I'm a pretty generalist when it comes to TTRPGs, in general. That's not proper way to structure that sentence, but oh well. It's it feels rough. It feels not great, even though I'm sure many people out here understand it's just the minorities. It's just minorities of people who are talking about this kind of stuff. Because honestly, if these things were so bad, so prevalent, not as many people would be getting into these games. Pathfinder would not be doing nearly as well as it does. Neither would D&D. And heck, even in the Lancer community, there can be some kerfuffles that happen because people want different things out of a game of imagination, right? People can have wildly different games, as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, from each other. The experiences are so not the same that, in all honesty, every time you're playing a system, you're playing a different game than any other group out there. And so, when a game's company makes decisions or changes that you don't agree with, it feels like an attack on the way you want to play. Or when someone speaks up about something they don't like that you do like, it feels like an attack on the things you enjoy. It almost feels like it invalidates the way you play TTRPGs. And let me be the first to tell you, your way of fun is never wrong. The only thing that matters is if you and your table are having fun. Now, the table part's important because everyone at the table needs to be able to have fun. And of course, you need to work together at that point. But for other groups, other tables, who cares what they talk about? Who cares what they do? Obviously, there's extremes that people shouldn't cross, but for the most part, for your general enjoyer of TTRPGs, let people have fun the way they want to have fun. If a game company does not do something you like or does do something you dislike in a game, well, then just change it because no one can force you to play a TTRPG any other way. That's, in fact, the magic of the genre, right? I'm not telling people to not complain. Complaining is completely normal. It's how people relieve stress. It's how people communicate what displeases them in hopes that things might change. I get that. But for people who are looking at the space and feeling like it's hostile, don't worry. There's tons of people out here who are enjoying TTRPGs and are loving it and creating art and creating wonderful shows, having wonderful experiences, sharing that with everyone. It's a really great time to be in TTRPGs. Don't let the negativity get to you. When I said prevailing at the beginning of this video, I mean, that's the way it feels. That's the way it appears sometimes. But that's definitely not the case. TTRPGs are doing great. They're flourishing better than they ever have before. And as long as we can all keep moving forward, keep working together to make TTRPGs fun for everyone, then there's only going to be better and better games on the horizon for your table and for everyone else's. And that is what I'm trying to fight for here on this channel. I'm trying to create a space where TTRPGs can be talked about, where we can enjoy TTRPGs, and where we can hype other people up to enjoy TTRPGs to make the space a better place. Your way of playing the game is valid, and I agree, and I will defend that. But I will allow other people to enjoy their games too. So, if it matters to you, this is the channel you're going to want to be on when it comes to talking about TTRPGs in general. I look at a variety of games. I talk about predominantly games like Pathfinder and Lancer because those are the games I personally enjoy, but general TTRPGs as well. In fact, we have a live play series where we look at other games other than Pathfinder and play them in seasons. We do have a Pathfinder game that comes back every other season, but we do look at other games as well. And I plan on talking about a lot of other games as well. So if you would like, subscribe. Or you could do me a favor and like the video so that other people have a higher chance of seeing it. That's all I ask, just to spread the enjoyment of TTRPGs as much as possible. But that's going to be it for me. Thank you all so much for listening to my rant today. Hopefully you enjoyed. Good luck with your games. Lead the bad luck to me, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.